I looked up and realized I was alone. The others were gone, and something was following me, staying just out of sight. This is Mr. H. You're listening to Masked Horror. My brother disappeared at Camp Ashford. I was 10 years old the last time I saw my brother. He was 13. His name was Danny. We were both sent to Camp Ashford that summer, one of those rustic, woodsy camps up in northern Michigan, the kind with no cell service, bunk beds that smelled like mildew, and counselors who looked barely older than the kids they were watching. It was July when Danny disappeared. One morning he just wasn't in his bed. They said he ran away, packed a small bag, left in the middle of the night, probably trying to hitch a ride back home. But that didn't make sense. He'd left his inhaler, his shoes, even the note from Mom he kept folded in his pocket. He never would have left me behind, not Danny. After a few days of searching, the local police gave up, and Camp Ashford quietly shut down by the end of the summer. It was like everyone wanted to forget it ever happened, but I never did. Years went by. I moved on, kind of. Got older, went to college, tried not to think about it. Then this past September, out of nowhere, I got an email from a guy I used to bunk with, Josh. He said some of the old campers were planning an unofficial reunion back at the Ashford site. The campgrounds had been abandoned, but a local hiking group had cleared the trails again. It was all legal, and for some reason, I said yes. I drove up there one weekend. It looked just like I remembered, and somehow completely different. Nature had started swallowing the place. Cabins half rotted, the old mess hall covered in vines, but the clearing near the lake, that was still there. So was the fire pit where we used to roast marshmallows. Most of the group left before sunset. I stayed behind. Something about the place. It felt like it was holding something back. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe closure. Maybe nothing. But around dusk, I wandered down an old trail behind what used to be Cabin 3. The one we shared. That's when I saw it. A tree just off the trail. Old, tall, probably there before the camp was even built. On the bark, about 5 feet up, was a name carved deep into the wood. Danny. And under it, a date. July 18. 2 days after he disappeared. My stomach dropped. I ran my fingers over the carving. It wasn't weathered or eroded the way it should have been after all these years. It looked new, fresh, almost like it had been protected somehow. And then I noticed something else. More names under Danny's. Smaller, messier. Some I didn't recognize, others I did. Kids I remembered from our cabin. Kids who had left camp early or just never came back. That's when I realized what felt off about the clearing. There were no animal sounds, no bugs, no wind, just silence. And then, something whispered my name. Not loudly, not even threatening, just whispered from nowhere in the trees. I turned around and ran. I don't remember how I made it back to my car. I just remember locking the doors and peeling out of there like something was chasing me. I haven't told anyone else what I saw yet. I'm still not even sure it was real. But that tree is out there, with Danny's name on it, and I swear it's waiting for another one. The camp shut down, in '92. I found the tape while cleaning out my uncle's attic after he passed. It was in a plastic grocery bag, stuffed between a box of baseball cards and an old Sony camcorder. No label, just a dusty black VHS with a faded sticker that had Camp Summer 92 scribbled on it in Sharpie. It caught my eye because I actually went to the camp on the video. Not for long, just one summer when I was 9. But I remembered it. The old cabins, the smell of pine sap and bug spray, the canoes that always leaked no matter how many times they patched them. The camp shut down the same year after a kid supposedly drowned in the lake. It was a huge thing back then, quietly covered up, hushed in the news, just enough to spook parents into never sending their kids back. Anyway, I figured the tape might have some old promotional footage or counselor recordings. I took it home and dug out my old VCR. I hit play. At first, it was just what I expected. Shaky camcorder shots of kids singing around a bonfire, counselors goofing off, grainy close-ups of s'mores, total early 90s nostalgia. But around 10 minutes in, the tape cut. Just a second of static, then it came back. Different. Same camp, but the vibe had shifted. It was darker. Still, there was no music or laughing, just the wind in the trees. The camera was moving through the woods behind the cabins, slowly, deliberately, like someone was filming quietly, maybe without permission. And that's when I noticed something strange in the bottom corner of the screen. A timestamp. June 17th, 2018. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Some older camcorders let you punch in the date manually, and my uncle wasn't exactly tech-savvy. Maybe he reused the tape. Maybe the clock was just wrong. But the footage didn't match what came before it. The earlier clips were full of movement, laughter, and background noise. This part felt sterile, intentional, like someone was trying not to be heard. Then I saw them. A group of kids standing near the lake, not playing, not moving, just standing, like they were waiting for something. The camera zoomed in, steady, deliberate, not a slip of the hand. Whoever was filming wanted a closer look. And one of the kids turned toward the lens. I recognized her immediately. Her name was Megan. We were in the same canoe group. I remembered her because she always had this green candy stain on her teeth from eating sour candy nonstop. She looked exactly the same. Same shirt, same hair, same face. Then the others turned. All of them. Quiet, unblinking, just watching the camera. And then they raised their arms and pointed straight at the lens. That's when the screen went black. No static, no tape glitch, just silence. I sat there frozen, the cassette still spinning in the VCR, until it finally stopped with a soft click. I don't know how that footage got there. Maybe someone spliced it together. Maybe my uncle recorded something without telling anyone. Maybe he went back to that site himself. I honestly don't know. But here's the part I can't stop thinking about. The kid who drowned. The one the camp blamed everything on. That wasn't the whole story. 3 campers disappeared that summer, and Megan was one of them. The footage didn't feel like something caught by accident. It felt like someone went back and filmed them on purpose. They sent us in pairs. My buddy was never found. At Camp North Pines, they were strict about one thing above all else: the buddy system. You didn't go to the bathroom without your buddy, didn't leave your cabin without your buddy, and especially never, ever went into the woods alone. They hammered that rule into our heads from day one. But no one took it seriously. We were just kids, and the place felt more like a Boy Scout hangout than a real camp. Bonfires, canoe races, cheesy ghost stories told by teenage counselors. My buddy's name was Nathan. He was quiet, wiry, and carried around a little notebook he'd sketch in constantly. Trees, bugs, faces. He was always drawing something. On the third night, our counselor assigned us to a trail mapping game. It was a team exercise. Follow a marked path through the woods and draw a map of the area. Standard camp stuff. We were told to stay within the flagged boundary lines and be back before sunset. Nathan and I headed out together with a compass, a cheap plastic whistle, and a half-finished bag of trail mix. About 30 minutes in, we lost the trail markers. I wanted to double back. Nathan was convinced he saw something cool just up ahead. He didn't say what, but he got this weird look in his eye. I followed him. Of course I did. The buddy system, after all. The path he led me down wasn't a trail. It was more like an animal track, narrow, overgrown, branches clawing at our shirts as we pushed through. And then, he stopped. Dead quiet. He was staring into the trees like he saw something, but wouldn't say what. "Do you see that?" he whispered. I looked, but there was nothing there, just more woods. Then, without warning, he stepped forward and darted behind the brush and vanished. I called his name. No answer. I walked maybe 10 feet after him, and then I heard it. A loud, sharp whistle. Not the one we brought. This one was deeper, almost demonic sounding. Then another, and another. 3 short blasts from 3 different directions. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until I hit the clearing near the camp entrance, gasping and scratched up. A counselor found me and started yelling, asking where Nathan was. They searched all night. Dogs, volunteers. They never found a trace. His notebook was discovered 2 days later, tucked under a rock near a tree half a mile from where we were last seen. On the last page, he'd drawn what looked like a spiral carved into a tree trunk, surrounded by 3 black silhouettes. That summer was cut short. The entire camp shut down early, and the owners issued some statement about extenuating circumstances. Nathan's disappearance was labeled a runaway, but none of us believed that, not even the adults. The weirdest part, years later, I went back to that area on a day hike. Just curious, I wanted to see if I could find that part of the woods again. The trees looked different, older, but I found what I think was the right spot. And on one of the trees, faint but still there, was a spiral carved into the bark. Not a natural one, perfectly symmetrical, etched deep. And next to it, 3 tiny vertical slashes, like tally marks.